Representative Brian Brown, our state representative in the House of Representatives, and our host here this morning. And, I'm just reading like everybody else and listening. Of course, we had the governor and Speaker of the House here in Greenville this week. We were honored to have them here. I want to talk to you about what we keep hearing about the funding problems with the ECU School of Medicine. And, people in this community have no idea how hard you have worked on that and what you've done, and we've got some problems with it still in the Senate. I want to get to that, but give us an update first on where the state budget is. A lot of political theater yesterday, and for all of those people who continue to say that you and all the Republicans are Art Pope puppets.
Yeah, that's
I thought it was interesting yesterday that Art got into a huge, of course, Art Pope, the budget director, and one of the richest people in the world, who has funded a lot of GOP causes over the years. But yesterday he goes over to the Senate for a meeting with Republicans in the state Senate, and it turned into a little bit of a brawl.
It sure did. You say what you want to about our Pope ideologically, but there is no doubt in the world that this man is a financial genius. And not listening to him, I think, in regards to budgetary items and fiscal matters in the state would be a hazardous thing for us to do. So I think he's doing a lot of great work over in the governor's office, but we need to pay attention to what Mr. Pope has to say when it comes to budgetary matters in the state.
Right now, let's see if I can state in one sentence kind of where the budget stands. The governor's budget and the House budget is pretty much lined up at this point. The biggest issues, of course, are school teacher raises and the cost of Medicaid. You guys in the House and the governor's office believe that a 5% raise is what should be done for school teachers. Most other government employees in the state would get $1,000 raise. And then the other contentious issue is what to do about Medicaid. Art Pope and the governor have certain numbers for Medicaid. The Senate says we want to overfund that and put in another $300 million or so for potential overruns in Medicaid. But the question is, at the cost of what? And that's where we are, right? Because you think, it seems to me like the House thinks that's going to cost us teaching assistants and other things like that.
Yeah, without question. I mean, I think
state that accurately.
Very accurately, and that is really the divide. It's Medicaid, how we shore up Medicaid, how much reserve that we provide to Medicaid, and then how we achieve the education promises that we've made. But I think what's significant that no one is talking about today, and it blows my mind, and I'm going to call the media out today on this. It needs to be talked about. I see on this page right here, drama but no budget agreement. On Wednesday, the House and the governor held a press conference in the governor's mansion talking about what we were going to do, which was going to keep a promise that we made 2 or 3 months ago on increasing teacher raises in this state, providing higher wages for entry teachers, providing state employees raises, providing state troopers raises, cleaning up the coal ass mess. We passed a bill out of the North Carolina House yesterday fulfilling that promise. 5% pay raise to teachers. Starting salary for teachers increased. $1,000 raise for all state employees. A 5 to 6% raise for state troopers. Cleaning up the coal ass mess. Reinstating master's pay. Henry, that passed the North Carolina House unanimously. 74 present Republicans, 43 present Democrats, all voted in favor, essentially, for a North Carolina budget. In probably the most partisan politics-driven era in American history, you had a unanimous North Carolina House stand behind.
You mean nonpartisan?
At this part, everybody's very partisan in this country, right?
Oh yeah.
So you're talking
you mean
about
with the environment being partisan?
Absolutely. Yeah. So you're talking about the North Carolina House stepping up, putting partisan politics aside, and doing what's right for the North Carolina citizens. And standing behind promises made. That's unheard of. And I'm extraordinarily proud, but you're not going to see that in the headlines today, that a unanimous House passed a budget.
Well, I don't want to run out of time, but, Senator Phil Berger immediately put out a statement saying that your budget was a gimmick because it didn't deal with anything but school teacher raises and Medicaid and the coal ash mess, and that, all these other things have been left undone. And he also said the North Carolina Senate wants to give school teachers more than a 5% raise. Who's being gimmicky?
The Senate's being gimmicky at this point because how do you get to those numbers on a higher raise percentage? You're going to get there by doing things like cutting teacher assistants that we just passed saying we're not going to cut any teacher assistants. We're not going to tie your pay raise to relinquishing your tenure. I mean, we did the appropriate things. And, the reality is that, we have to pass a responsible budget. We passed a 2-year budget. We passed a budget that we don't have to do anything with. We don't even have to pass a continuation budget at this point. We passed a 2-year budget. We could go home today with doing nothing else, and the governor and the administrative offices can function without us doing anything.
We've only got like 2 minutes left in this segment, and we got a hard break coming up. I want to give you a chance to talk about where we stand in the budget with East Carolina's medical school funding. Over 20, we hear about university funding cuts, which there have been now something like $300 million cut starting 6 years ago from the university system. But the real problem here in Greenville at East Carolina is this $20 to $27 million worth of cuts to the ECU Med School in the last 2 years, and you have busted your butt, I'll have to say that.
I appreciate that.
To get that funding reinstated, and you got it passed through the House. Where does it stand now?
We've passed it through the House 3 times, actually. It's in the budget right now. This is my only concern with us walking away from a budget with no agreement, is that those items that have been added in provisions to this budget to restore the funding to East Carolina University and Safeguard Vidant Medical Center, they would be undone. And they would go without anything being done until the next long session. So those are very concerning components for us as if we walk away from this budget process at this point. I can tell you that it feels like the Senate is starting to understand things in terms of SOTCA and what it means, and that we just can't appropriate $14 million to the university system when it is not needed to be appropriated. The UPL situation is really coming along as well. We have some of the member hospitals across the state that are trying to kind of understand and work through the process with us. I think that it all comes down to where we're going to end up with the budget, of whether we're going to make any headway in this or not. So keep your fingers crossed that we can come to some type of compromise with the budget and get something passed that includes all of these very important provisions for the eastern part of this state.
Well, on behalf of everybody in Greenville, this is our economy.
It is 100% our economy, $2.5 billion economy.
Yeah, this is our economy, and we just have to, you and myself and some other people, we've exposed some nerves up there in recent weeks because we've been adamant about this, but you've just done unbelievable work in the legislature to try to get this done. But, I will say that the governor's with us.
Yes.
Speaker of the House is with us. We just have some problems in the Senate, and we're working through those and trying to get them there. And I'm like you. I'm cautiously optimistic.
Yeah.
I hope something will happen.
So do I. We appreciate all your help as well.
Well, you're the guy doing the work at Ground Zero up there, and I'll tell
appreciate
you,
it.
we couldn't have gotten where we are without you.
I appreciate
because
that.
you've done a great job of explaining to people in the legislature how important this is to our area. And I shudder to think what would have happened if we didn't have you there.